You were able to successfully navigate this program from far, far away. What was that like for you?
Not difficult at all. I think it has been just a party, actually. It has been wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Today we are interviewing Irene all the way from Norway with love. A lot of people don't realize that we work with international clients and with people all around the world. So Irene's a great example of someone who actually has a classic presentation in some ways of someone with autoimmunity, meaning she had no clue, nor her physicians, for over 6 years that any of her symptoms was autoimmune. We're talking about she was dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, severe B12 deficiency, neuropathy, hair loss, hormonal hell, and even a lot of gut infections, irritable bowel syndrome, and chronic diarrhea. So that's a slew of things, but hey, guess what? It was all connected. And guess what? She did not only see a ton of physicians, but also functional and natural medicine physicians in her own country, only to find out no help. So here she is today. I can't wait for you guys to see where she is today. If you're watching this anywhere on social media, make sure to join our community in the Facebook group of 70,000 members and counting at the time of this recording by clicking the link above or below this video to join our Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally Facebook group. If you're watching from YouTube, Instagram, make sure you give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe. And make sure if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. You have no idea. Every thumbs up that we get, it actually increases the organic spread of this message to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So help us out by giving us a thumbs up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Manuel, and I'm the host here with the Transform program. I feel so privileged today to have gotten a chance to talk to Irene all the way from Norway and hear about what's been happening with her over the last 6 years. And it really hurt me to hear that so many doctors dismissed her and did not believe her until she found Dr. Maggie. She connected with Dr. Maggie, she said, immediately by seeing her story and watching the case studies of people that Dr. Maggie was able to help turn their mystery symptoms around. So I cannot wait for you to see where Irene is now.
Hey, Irene, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, I am Irene from Norway. I'm 58 years old and the mother of 2 young ladies, which have just left the building. I am an empty nester.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, from this August, actually. So, And
Irene has some secret talents, Anne.
What are your secret talents, Irene?
I have a few artistic talents, if that's what you're thinking about. Yeah, I do a lot of arts and crafts, and I make Norwegian national costumes. They are called bunad in Norwegian. And I do that as a part-time job or a hobby.
She knits, she crochets, she makes native costumes.
So that's what you love to do. But over the last several years, you've been struggling with your health. Talk to us a little bit about what's been going on with you.
I used to be a very super multitasking single mom. I was doing sports and was doing a lot of voluntary work in the sports club, and I was working long hours in the oil industry. And actually, I was out jogging, and I think I was more or less in the best condition ever. And I was running out one afternoon, and I couldn't run back home again, so I had to crawl, more or less. I ended up on my sofa. I couldn't remember anything, so my daughters called for the ambulance to come and get me. I remember they asked me of my birthday, and I couldn't remember it. And I couldn't open my phone or anything, so I was totally out of memory and really weak, and I was hospitalized for 5 days, I think it was.
That must have been very scary for you.
It was really scary for me and for my daughters, which were 15 and 13 at the time. For me, being a single mom and the only provider as well, it has been quite,
You know, Anne, it's interesting how sometimes we'll talk to people where they're like, I don't have any symptoms and it's just prevention. And then some people's like, it's the gradual onset of symptoms. This is a dramatic, like literally in the middle of a run, suddenly I couldn't run. I had to crawl back home.
Right.
Right. So what?
Overnight, it feels like your body just really stopped working,
Yeah,
shut down.
everything at the same time. All the symptoms just appeared at the same time.
So-
And I maybe there was a tiny little hunch of something a month or something before, because I remember I went to the doctor and asked if she could check me on my face because I had some numbness in my face.
That's important.
And she didn't. She looked in, checked my ear and my throat, and she didn't even take a blood test, and she said I was fine. And
Right.
I think that was the first sign of severe neuropathy. And
It is. So I'm curious, after the 5 days, what were they able to tell you from the hospitalization? What did you find out ultimately was the cause of that episode?
that I had B12 deficiency,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else was wrong with me, even though
Right.
they scanned my brain and
Didn't have a stroke, so
heart.
therefore nothing's wrong with her brain.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
nice. And also the nerve doctor, what is that called?
Neurologist.
Neurologist, yeah, and checked me, but that was if I could walk a
You're
straight
fine.
line. Yeah, you're
See,
fine.
this
Yeah.
is so typical, Anne, where somebody goes in and they have such an acute episode that's like life altering, like literally life altering. But because you could walk, you don't have a neurological problem. You get a CT scan, it's negative for a stroke, so then you're cleared. All she has is B12 deficiency, and that's total bull crap. The B12 deficiency is literally the tip of iceberg of everything else that was wrong. It's an end result of all these other processes that are causing it. Because I'd love to find out, Irene, like as a result of that, what did you go through to finally figure out what really was wrong? Or did you even know what was the underlying causes of some of these symptoms?
Yeah, when I went to my primary doctor and tried to sort things out, the first one I had, she actually turned her back on me. And that was quite scary because I've always been a very strong person in physically and mentally. And when I was that sick and she didn't believe me and didn't help me, that was really, really scary.
So you're saying you were telling her symptoms of how
Yeah.
terrible you were feeling, and she not only brushed it off, but said, it's in your head, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you.
She actually told me, you have PTSD, and I think you should go home and rest.
I think she should go home and rest.
Yeah.
I think she's got PTSD, called boredom of seeing patients over and over again and dismissing them. I mean, is this the same doctor that you went in for numbness that looked at your ear and told you were fine to go home?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It's a frustrating feeling for you, I imagine, because you knew something was not right.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah. And I also, because there were a couple of doctors in the same office, and I begged for someone else to help me there. But that was difficult because I think they looked at me as a difficult client.
So it sounds like you went from doctor to doctor trying to get answers until finally you were ready to throw your hands up and say, no one can help me. And then what happened? You found the Transform program?
I did. And
Tell me
that
about
was
that.
after 6 years of not going to the doctor.
And getting
Here's the thing,
progressively
though.
worse.
Here's the thing is, I think, Irene, during that 6 years, you found out you were diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. You were diagnosed with H. pylori, SIBO, and was there anything else?
And the B12.
And that B12 deficiency. So there were diagnoses that layered on.
When I went to a functional doctor, they found out about my SIBO and H. pylori.
But here's the issue, though. I mean, and I think Irene is a classic example. People get diagnosed with these diagnoses finally going to see a naturopath or a functional doctor. Oh, you have chronic fatigue syndrome. Oh, you have H. pylori. You have SIBO. Oh, you have B12 deficiency. oh, let's go to this functional doctor for this or that functional doctor for this. And this is another pitfall. And I'm just going to share this. Let's say you go to someone for chronic fatigue. I'm the expert in chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay. You go and spend the $1 million workup, $1 million IVs or, supplementation, but then they know nothing about how to deal with H. pylori or SIBO, or they know nothing about how to deal with hormones or blood sugar or nutrition. Or someone will go and say, I'm going to go and work with the SIBO H. pylori expert. Well, they may know nothing about the neurological neuropathy changes, the hormones, or maybe the chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's like people don't realize how disjointed the care is that people get from naturopaths and functional medicine doctor, and how much of a red herring that could be when they don't address it all together. So this is a 6-year process Irene went through.
I remember the last time I was picked up by an ambulance was almost 2 years ago, just before Christmas. I was so weak again, and I was almost fainting. And
Not better.
I just left a note on the floor for my kids that pick me up if I'm not breathing anymore.
Wait a minute, Irene. Let's talk about that, Irene, because this is a very traumatic, I'm sure, experience for you and your family to have to make those plans and write notes and leave them on the floor. If I'm not breathing, here's what I need you to do. Irene, what does that feel like to think back to that's what your life was, that was happening in your life?
Yeah, it's painful, and it's painful especially for how much this has been an impact on my kids, because I was the only one for them, actually. And so, yeah, it was difficult. I'm single parent, and also it was difficult for the family to understand and believe me, the family and the doctor. And when I went to the hospital just before Christmas 2 years ago, the doctor I met there, he was a really young doctor, and he was also very kind to me. It was in the middle of the pandemic, so he came in there with all this extra gear, and I couldn't see anything except his eyes. But he suggested I had this chronic fatigue syndrome, and I have heard that a couple of times. It might be something. But I refused.
Irene, chronic fatigue syndrome is what we call a junk term. It's a junk term for people who have fatigue that nobody understands. You've got chronic fatigue syndrome. Just like in the United States, when someone have pain that nobody can explain, they go, oh, you got fibromyalgia. So there are these junk term diagnoses that gives you some relief. Like, now I have a diagnosis. That doesn't mean they're helping you. But Irene, and listen to the multiple ways of price that she's had to pay for 6 years. Not only did she pay for care that's, time and care from people who dismissed her, and she went round and round, multiple hospitalizations, multiple functional medicine providers, further ER visits, to just then be still leaving a note on the floor for her kids, pick me up if I stopped breathing.
It's such a sad and tragic situation to think about. So I'm just really curious then, what did lead you finally to this program?
That was actually because I've always been a very curious person. I never give up. And I read a lot, and my life has been more or less on the sofa. So I had to teach myself stuff. And so I actually sorted out so many things. So I knew many things already, what was wrong with me. It was difficult to have my primary doctor believe in me and listen to me, because when you think you know something and you go to the doctor, they don't really like that so much, I think.
So you first found out about the Transform program while researching online.
Yeah, I was actually stalking a couple of different American doctors who did a lot of work on the gut stuff, and I think there was the Facebook algorithm that gave me Dr. Maggie.
All the way from Norway.
Yeah. And you were researching, you were trying to find what was going to be the best fit for you. So what was it about Dr. Maggie and this program that you just trusted and you said, this could be the key for me?
That was actually the case studies like this one. So I was listening to many of those, and I think it was only a week or so, and I just knew this is it. And after I listened to Dr. Maggie's own story, that hit me so hard because I have a similar story in more than one way. And I knew that she would not lift her eyebrows and send me to the next doctor because she understood the whole picture. Yeah.
To be treated by somebody who's been there before, who absolutely believes you because she's lived it as well. She's had to go through some of that same heartache, some of that pain, exhaustion, and she wants to see you get well. And so I'm glad that you connected with her in that way. So you are in Norway. A lot of people assume if they're abroad that they cannot work with an American doctor, but that's not the case. In fact, you might be surprised to learn that about 15% of the people in the program are international. So you were able to successfully navigate this program from far, far away. What was that like for you?
I think it has been just a party, actually. It has been wonderful and not difficult at all. I used to work with a functional doctor in Oslo, and that's also on Zoom because it's so far away. So even though she's Norwegian, we met on Zoom. So I don't see the problem with that at all. And this program is so complete. Everything is together and so well organized. So it's not a problem at all.
Well, I want to get into it then. So let's talk about the results. I can tell just by talking to you that you're not getting ready to have to crawl on the floor. So I'm assuming that crushing fatigue has lifted dramatically.
Yeah, it has. It has. I have really good results through the first 8 weeks. Neuropathy is improving. My left leg was numb all the time. Every time I sat down, I had to rise after 5 minutes because it was sleepy all the time. And that has gone, actually.
And let's talk about neuropathy, because I know you saw a neurologist, and I know that this was one of your first symptoms dating back more than 6 years ago now. And most doctors, even functional medicine physicians, will tell you, I'm sorry, but neuropathy is forever. But you're telling me your neuropathy has greatly improved?
Yeah, really improved. I think I have many symptoms that is related to neuropathy.
Such as?
I had a constant twitch in my left eye. Everything was on my left side, actually.
Yep. So twitching, what were the other symptoms of neuropathy? Because a lot of people don't even understand what that is.
You had numbness?
Numbness, yeah, some tingling in my body when I tried to sleep. I felt like I had this low voltage electricity in my body.
I call them zingers.
Constantly feeling zapped. And then you're not getting restful sleep either, which, as you know.
No, it was really hard to sleep. All the symptoms feel stronger when you lay down and try to be still.
Wow. And, okay, so the fatigue lifting, the neuropathy going away. I know you had a lot of digestive issues. You mentioned you had the infection, the SIBO, the H. pylori. Digestion was a problem. How's digestion now?
Oh, digestion is, that is almost a dream because when I started the program, I did this intermittent fasting because it was not only because I thought it would help, it was because I didn't like to eat. So I thought it was good to have 2 meals in a day.
Let's get traumatized by food and then just not eat.
Yeah.
And call that a treatment plan.
Yeah. And I was also doing Nexium for my reflux.
Right. And you learned a lot in the program about stomach acid, didn't you?
I did. And I knew that Nexium was wrong. And I tried to argue that with my doctor as well. But he said, yeah, but if it doesn't help, take more Nexium.
Guess what caused your B12 deficiency? Nexium.
Yeah.
So when you say digestion is now a dream, what does that mean for you? What were you experiencing specifically before, and how is it now?
Oh, that was ruining totally my social life because I had constant diarrhea, and I was maybe every time I was eating, I had to go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times after.
No way to live.
That is not a way to live now.
And no doctor before had ever really helped you focus on proper digestion and connected the dots to say, okay, your poor digestion is probably what is contributing to the B12 deficiency and the chronic fatigue syndrome. And that is something that Dr. Maggie was able to connect the dots with in this program.
Yes, I had an attempt on this FODMAP from a doctor's suggestion, but it didn't do anything for me.
And do you know how hard it is to go on a FODMAP elimination diet?
That is difficult.
Ridiculous. And the thing is, if that shit worked, we don't need to have this conversation.
And also to do that together with brain fog and being so exhausted, it's almost...
I think it's cruel and unusual punishment.
It is.
I really do.
So yeah, it's so hard. And then were you having any issues as well with hair loss, I want to say, right?
Hair loss, yes.
And you didn't know why that was, but what did you find out in the program? Did you have thyroid issues?
Yes, I have an autoimmune attack on my thyroid.
And never knew that before, did you?
No. And even though I have a family history with both my mother and my sister with thyroid issues, no doctor would even check my thyroid.
Can you believe that? 6 years, multiple ER visits, multiple functional medicine doctors, chronic fatigue syndrome, B12, diarrhea up the wazoo. Not one person even checked her thyroid. And
Even
on top
with
of
the family history.
Even with its family history.
Yeah.
Irene's a typical case. Norway or not. Norway or United States is a typical case.
Yeah.
Incredibly frustrating.
So what did you learn about your hormones? It's not just about your thyroid. Yeah. No. By the way, thyroid is a hormone. But besides the thyroid, what did you learn about overall your hormone picture in the program?
I think that was really the most exciting subject for me.
She was like a kid in a candy store. She does love hormones. What did you discover?
I discovered that I have estrogen dominance.
Oh my God, it was so bad.
and testosterone just outside the scale, so far outside the scale.
Which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. People with polycystic ovarian syndrome do not realize it's autoimmune related. It's pre-diabetes, guys. That's autoimmune. Diabetes is autoimmune. And people with polycystic ovarian syndrome have an autoimmune attack related to hormone-making organs. This is why they have a higher rate of an anti-thyroid autoimmune disease, because that's a hormone-making organ as well. Okay. So this is all tying it together. Her hormones with the polycystic ovarian disease, estrogen dominance, all autoimmune related to her autoimmune thyroid. She's a walking, talking, classic autoimmune case that none of her doctors knew about. This is why I say diagnosis doesn't matter, because one of the biggest questions, Irene, to us sometimes, and maybe you had it, your program is called Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally. I don't have a diagnosis of a distinct autoimmune disease. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And the thing is, 95% of symptoms out there are actually autoimmune related. You just don't have a name to the problem. It doesn't mean it ain't autoimmune, and it doesn't mean the root causes are not found using the 5 pillars. So she just said the hormones was the holy grail to discovering this is an autoimmune shit show being tied together.
And then when you start talking about PCOS, I'm curious too, how important was learning about your blood sugar for you?
Blood sugar, yeah, that is important. Yes, of course. Since I was a little girl, I can remember that I always had this feeling of almost fainting when I was hungry. Yeah. And I didn't like to eat. So I was out and about, and I loved to have fun and do sports and everything. So, and I didn't have time to eat. And I remember I always got back to my mom in the kitchen and said, "Oh, I'm feeling so weak and strange." And I think that is something that has been with me all the time, actually, to learn how to eat and not only what to eat, because I was quite good at what to eat. I had practiced for many, many years already, but how to eat was different. Yes.
So this sounds like really It's changed your life. I can tell you from all aspects. Tell me, what is it like right now with your children? I'm sure they're not constantly worried about mom as much.
No, no, that's true. I think they are more relaxed about how I'm doing these days, actually, because I've been, yeah, a wreck.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. So many people out there are feeling that same way, feeling like, what's wrong with me? Will I ever find someone who can help me? And that's a really dark place to have to live in, and it
Yeah.
feels lonely. But I'm just thankful because how far out of the program did you say you are?
I finished 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So just
Yeah.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
just 2 weeks out of the
Mhm.
program.
Mhm.
And you have so many improvements and so many wins to celebrate. And
Yeah.
you know that this
Mhm.
is launching you into a full year of
Yeah.
turnaround with your health.
Yeah.
So you have a lot to look forward to.
I can't wait to see the continuous healing, and I feel there's so much more goodies
One
there.
of the things I loved and about working with Irene was like, I don't think people just realize how many different ways with which and timing options that they have to work within the program. And it's not an obstacle. Like, we have mastermind calls to work directly with me that are in morning and evening time zones for United States, which also means that they're morning and evening time zones in Norway and
Mm.
around the world. That's times with working with our functional nutritionist, which was also, we had various times, and there are individual pod meetings that's also structured around the individuals that are in that pod to work on their mindset. So there was a lot of variety and opportunity, but Irene was always like, I don't know, like you were hungry. Like it was so cool. Like when something dawned on you, it was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like she had a moment, and that was the funnest part about working with someone who's a super learner like Irene. She gets excited at the connections and the knowledge, and she implements right away.
Yeah, I do. I've done everything you told me.
I know. That's why she has all these
More.
results.
Yeah.
Well, what
Yeah.
was it like then working with Dr. Maggie? I know she's sitting right here, so we can pretend like she's not even there, but I'm just always
Okay.
curious, what was it like when you actually got to work with her, personalized attention?
I think it was such a wonderful surprise to see so much smiles and having so much fun when people are really, really sick and we are working in a group like that. You should think that people were sitting there complaining and whinging, and yeah, but it's so much fun, and the spirit is so good all the time. Actually, I was looking forward to it every week.
And you got to
Yeah.
experience different cultures as well,
Yeah.
and kind of how people elsewhere are approaching things, and the mindset work that probably goes into that was such a big part of this. What was that like for you?
The mindset work. Yeah.
Culturally, I'm actually curious. Did you think there's actually a distinct cultural difference with the Norwegian approach to health versus, well, I wouldn't even say I'm an American approach to health, because this is completely out of the box. Would you say culturally there's a big difference between how Norwegians communicate versus how I communicate with people?
Yeah, I think you are one of a kind. Definitely.
She says
Yeah.
with love.
Yeah, and I love the straightforward attitude, and that is perfect for me because yeah, I need that myself. But I don't think it's so much cultural difference. I'm actually more surprised that it's so similar.
Irene, I can just tell that you have a lot of gratitude that
Mm.
you were able to experience this.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And also, if I can say something about the mindset work, it has been so important to me. It's difficult to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
It's a bit emotional to me to talk about this, but I think I have left most of my traumas in Transform.
Yes, you have.
Irene, that's so huge. And you realize that that is such a key part to your health turnaround as well. I can relate because I'm currently in the program. And I do want to say as well, I've only gone through 2 weeks of mindset work, but it has been extremely impactful for me as well. It changes the way that you think. And when you can change the way you think, you can change the way you live. Irene, I'm curious, who would you recommend this program to? If somebody is watching this interview, just as you were watching case studies several months back, what would you say to that person?
I think this program is for anyone who struggles with diffuse problems of any kind, actually, because it covers so much. And all these symptoms, when I had the entering interview before I started, I was holding my breath. Actually, I was thinking maybe I wasn't English enough to join the program, and that my symptoms and diagnosis wasn't severe enough. But now I know that there are so many things that this program is covering.
Regardless of whether you have a diagnosis or not, regardless of whether you think you're severe enough or not, right? Regardless of whether how far away you are or not, and even how good your English is or not.
Yeah.
You know, my biggest criteria for choosing who I work with is actually how hungry are you for these results?
Yeah, I was hungry.
I know.
And I was crying tears of relief with Rosanna when she said, "Welcome on board."
She told me that, and it just touched me to tears. I was like, that's the woman I want to work with. No, I'm serious. That's the woman I want to work with. We get to choose who we work with. And I loved, like, when she was talking to me about you and she told me about that, I was like, that's the person I want to work with. We want everybody who's hungry, who's going to work hard, who's going to be open, who's going to be vulnerable, right?
And I have to say that all the whole program in every piece of the chain is so well organized and friendly and welcoming, and all the people you meet and the support team and everything. I just love it. It's perfect.
So when you found this program, you know, it's an investment, but I want to know, and we like to call this the $1 million question, because what type of value and worth do you put on this program? What is it worth to you? Return on investment.
Oh, you can't measure it actually, because to me it's as I told you, I'm a single mom, and I lost my job because of my health. Partly, it wasn't an easy choice for me that way, but it has been. Now you can't measure it in cash. I have no regrets at all.
Dr. Maggie, I'm sure to hear so many people say over and over again, you can't measure it. It's something that's changed my life in such a deep and meaningful way. I have my life. If she would have found you, you know, years ago, she wouldn't have lost her job.
Well, that's the thing is, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but there was 18 months I couldn't work, actually. I literally had to hire another physician in my clinic to be my body because I couldn't work. I was in the room, but my body couldn't work. And so there was 18 months of disability. And not only was I disabled, I had to pay somebody to be my body. And so for me, I mean, my own personal investment in this I tell people it was a 16-year of investment to learn all this. And then when I think about the finances that I had invested my own money for this further education, all the things that I tried, all the testing that I demoed out, tried out, you know, and all the time off lost from work and all that. This is, over $1 million in my own investment to be able to have the content and experience to be able to teach this program. So for me, I'm proud. I am super proud of what I had to pay and the process I had to go through, that I can do this for somebody in 2 months, right? What's that worth? How much is it worth for you to get that experience in just a 2-month time frame? Faster, better, more comprehensive, more concise, from somebody who went through it. I'm really proud of that. I really am. And so for me, I look at that and you can say, oh my God, that's so much money or whatever. I'm like, no. If someone said to me, Maggie, you get to spend 16 years and $1 million to invest in what life would be like for the rest of your life, ask me that $1 million question, I'd be like, oh my God, this was worth 100 times that amount of money for me. Because for me, every day that I get to live right now, every time I see a result like Irene's, every time I get to like share something like this on social media or share my own experience of where I am today with somebody, I'm like, damn, that's priceless. That is priceless. Not only did I get to help myself, but now it gets to like pay it forward, and it gets to be like expansive, right?
Yeah.
And so I love the limitless ability at this point to have it come back in a millionfold. Like, I just love that.
Yeah.
Reaching so many people.
Yeah.
Irene, what do you think when you hear her say that?
Nice. And her passion and honesty is so, that is also so, yeah, it's so freeing and fantastic to watch. And you just know that she's doing this from her heart, and there's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
One thing that I think is really important with this program, you can't find it anywhere else. That's the close follow-up every week. You really need that when you're so sick and you have so many different symptoms. And if you go to a normal doctor, you go 1 week, you have 15 minutes to talk, and you have to choose 1 or 2 symptoms. And this is a total program, and also the modules, the way they are prepared, you have to watch them. And I had all my questions, and when I watched the videos, I had only 1 question left. So it's genius. So,
I love it.
So you don't waste Dr. Maggie's time.
And when she's not, no one's wasting your time either.
No,
It's like
I respect your time. Yeah.
I know. And
She spent 16 years trying to get all that information, right? And you're able to soak
I
it
like
all
being
in.
concise and brevity. Don't take 16 years to do it. Take 2 months. How about that? Well, thank you, my sister from another mother in Norway.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, and you always have some friends in the United States.
Yeah, I love that. And my house is big enough for a couple of you.
Oh, Maggie, you want to go?
Yeah, let's go.
We're planning a trip.
It's on my bucket list. Norway and Iceland. Here we go.
We can do some couch surfing in Bergen.
Love it.
Thank you, Irene.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. And I think that Irene's story really highlights that most people actually with autoimmunity can have symptoms that a lot of their physicians will have no clue, or all the physicians actually have no clue it's autoimmune. Irene went to traditional doctors. That left her feeling, honestly, dismissed and traumatized. And after that, she decided to just go the natural or functional medicine route, only to be left with, yes, some new diagnoses that weren't even quite autoimmune, but still she wasn't feeling better. She was told to go on FODMAP's diet or an intermittent fasting, which made her sicker. So I am just so proud of somebody all the way who went resourceful from Norway to find, I'm going to find a solution no matter where it lays. And I love the fact that she said, you know what, this was closer than seeing my physician in Oslo. Who I saw on Zoom anyway. And I got so much more out of this from working with this program in the United States. I love that. So I love that she laid out what the solutions are, but also international. These physical barriers are not a boundary for us. If you want to look into working with us, make sure you click the link above or below this video to start a chat with our team.
And Dr. Maggie, what I thought was so impactful that she had to say, you're right. She got so much personalized attention. And when somebody is that sick, she said, you really need week by week, somebody who's watching out for you. And she was able to get that. And it made all the difference for her in her health turnaround, because when she thinks back, she experienced some really traumatic moments there of not knowing if her children were going to find her not breathing. And that's extremely painful. And it's something that nobody wants to be in that position. And luckily with this program, she is finally on the other side of it. There is a bright, bright light, and she's not going to have to worry about that scenario, hopefully ever again.
No, and hell no. And I hope to be able to meet her someday there. And I want to meet those daughters.
We are taking